Welcome to Viking Spotlight. This is a podcast about people, events, and projects in the North Canton School District. I'm your host, Jeff Wendorf, and today we're honored to be talking to Mr. Mike Grady, the business management teacher at Hoover High School. Mr. Grady is currently in his 8th year teaching business management and entrepreneurship at Hoover High School and his 13th year teaching overall. His senior business students are a part of the Junior Achievement Company program, and his teams have been named to the National JA Company of the Year in the last 3 out of 4 years. We'll talk more about that in a second. In addition to his teaching duties, Mike teaches and trains baseball pitchers and is the co-owner of Velocity Sports in North Canton. He lives in North Canton with his wife Leslie and 2 children, Mikey and Audrey. Mike is also a 2000 graduate of Hoover High School. Go Vikings.
Go Vikes.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, Mike. First off, congratulations on your Elliott Economics Teacher Award and the Harvard Business Club of Northeastern Ohio. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. That was a really great honor to earn that award. Wasn't just me, though, because I've had great students, great support. In fact, Mrs. Knighty nominated me for that award along with Mr. and Mrs. Pilates. So they both put nominations in, and I learned earlier that I was going to win that award. And it's given out to one teacher who teaches either economics or business in all of Northeast Ohio. And they actually gave it to 2 teachers this year. And it was a great honor, and I was just really great to earn that award and talk a little bit more about what we're doing here at Hoover.
Yeah, well deserved with you. And we'll talk about some of the programs and some of the excitement and certainly awards that you and your kids have received through the program. You're a teacher at Hoover's Career Tech program as business management teacher. Could you share with us what students learn in the business management program? Yeah,
and I think the key word is it's a program. It's not just one class, which makes us unique compared to some other schools and what they offer. But our students start by taking business foundations or accounting. They can start with either course, but they will take both of those courses before they become seniors and come into the business management and entrepreneurship course. So in Business Foundation, they learn all of the basics of business. They do a really great project where they write a business plan, and they have to come up with an idea of something in STEM. And it's a 12-page business plan, and it's quite extensive, but they really learn to do a lot of research and learn to understand what makes a problem, a good problem to research, and they come up with a business solution to that. So that's the project in that course, and I do that with them, and that's a really great experience that we go through. And then for the most part, then they go off to take accounting with Mrs. Snyder. And most students love that Accounting 1 class so much, they actually take Accounting 2, which is an elective that they'll take sometimes their junior year and sometimes even their senior year. And by the time I get them back as seniors, it's neat because we've seen some of them as freshmen, some as sophomores, some as juniors, and especially the freshmen when they come back as seniors, they've grown so much. And now they're ready to start and run their business. So, we train them and teach them for, different courses. And it is really neat when those kids are not only in my class learning business management, but they're also in accounting too. So they've gone through this entire program to get ready for their senior year and beyond.
Sure, that's great. Well, you mentioned a couple of things that I want to kind of go off script on is STEM, and tell us a little bit about what that is, and then also I'll touch on the second one when you're done.
Yeah, so the STEM project is actually through a program called Believe in Ohio, and it is funded through our state, and they allocate $2 million a year to help students learn more about STEM careers, but really they want students coming up with innovative ideas, and hopefully when they become adults and when they start working, they can continue that innovative thinking. So the Believe in Ohio program's really great because the students will submit their business plans to local and regional and state competitions. And if they get to the state level, they have an opportunity for some big-time scholarship dollars. So $10,000 is the top award, and they have to, and it's a scholarship, so they have to go to a school in the state of Ohio.
Sure.
And a few years ago, we actually had a student win the top award, which was $20,000 at the time. Gary Gates had a great business plan, and he ended up using that and going to Ohio State, which he is there now. So
cool. That's awesome. So, and STEM and the Believe in Ohio program is awesome. And STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math.
And
if
math,
I'm correct.
And I even add medical now, especially in this day and age.
All
so
right.
we have some of those ideas as well.
And sometimes you hear STEAM, which includes the arts and so on. So yeah, that's very cool.
Yep.
Well, the second thing I wanted to draw out of your first comment there was about the students developing a business plan. And I think the root, and what I heard you say is that they find a problem to solve, and then they build a business plan out around that, not a business plan to make money,
correct,
but a business plan to solve somebody's problem.
Right. And that's really a fun process, and we go through that in all the classes. And in fact, one of the first lessons is we get out of the classroom and walk around and just look for problems around the school. And it's a great school, but we find all kinds of little things, that the students can notice. And then they come back and talk about it, and then we come up with business solutions for that. And then that extends to, when you drive home today, notice things. And when you talk to your parents, notice things. And it really gets their creativity going and helps them notice things going on in the world. And so that's where a lot of those ideas come from, and a lot of it, the problems they have. Right. And they want to come up with solutions to challenges they have in their lives. So yeah,
and then in turn, develop a business plan to address it and monetize it, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the junior achievement, or as we'll use this term a lot, JA businesses at Hoover have been extremely successful, and many of our listeners know that. But for those who don't know, 3 of your junior achievement companies have been named a National Company of the Year in the last 4 years. That's an amazing accomplishment. And that, for folks that don't know, and you'll tell us in a minute, that's a national, of all the districts and all the JA companies in the nation, they've been top 3 out of 4 times. Tell us some more about that and about those companies.
Yeah, it's just been an incredible experience, and it really started back when I was teaching at Marlington, when I knew that Kim Knighty, who was the teacher then, and she's now our technology director, was doing a program where students started and ran real businesses. And I was so curious about that. And I called her one day and I said, "Hey, Mrs. Knighty, I'm teaching business at Marlington. Would you show me how to do this? Because I think this is the best experience our kids can have when they do something for real." And so we actually started it at Marlington. And then when I had the opportunity to come here, I got to take over for Kim and kind of continue that here. And so for the first few years, we had great groups, and we made it to DC and just didn't place. It's really hard when you're talking about competing against the top 15 teams, that's who's invited to DC from around the country. And there's literally teams from Florida, California, Hawaii, all those states have been represented. In fact, there's over 10,000 students participate in the JA company program around the country each year. So when you're talking the top 15 teams, it gets down to 75 students. And so you're really competing against really top level competition. And so the first year when we won, it was just an amazing experience. That was our Believe team, and their mission was to save the bee population, which has been declining due to human activity, by creating these seed pods where you can plant them in your garden and flowers will grow. And so they had a really great mission. They partnered with the library that year, and they did really, really well. And so it was just an honor for us to win that. And one of my greatest memories from that year is when we landed the Akron-Canton Airport, which is such a great partner for so many organizations in our community. They had the fire trucks come out on the runway and spray the hoses, and it's called like a salute, and it's mostly done when there's a pilot retiring or some really big deal. And they did that for us, and the pilot came on and told the plane what was going on, and everybody cheered. And in fact, it was Kim who was taking the video of that day, and we had a great welcome at the airport, and it just was a really great experience. So that was back in 2018. And then the next year we had another incredible group come through, Simple Starters. And a lot of people still remember them. I actually get calls about them still to this day, people wanting their product, but they created conversation starter cards for families. And that's when our county was going through a tough time with some of the mental health issues at the time. And they thought that not only kids, but parents were spending too much time at dinner on their phones. And so the product was designed to get people talking.
Sure. Simply start a conversation
Simply
rather
start
than,
it.
hey, Jeff, how was school today? Fine.
Yep.
Much better conversation than that.
And they found that the target market was the parents. The kids were lukewarm about the idea, but the parents loved it. And so they went through that year, and they did really, really well. And they ended up winning the national competition. And in addition to that, they sold their company to the Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Center, and those cards are still being given out to people, rebranded, and so their idea lives on to this day, which is really, really neat. And then we had our pandemic year, and then when we came back last year, we had Finlit, whose mission was to help kids learn financial literacy in a more fun and engaging way. So they created, and it's amazing to see, because this board game they created looks like it was made by Hasbro. You would never know that high school students designed this. And so they had a really great mission behind their idea and ended up winning that. Now, last year was a virtual competition. We weren't in Washington, but they ended up winning that last year virtually. And so it's been an incredible experience. And each group kind of builds off the one before. And it's been a lot of fun to work with these groups, to say the least.
Right. And can't say enough. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To you as the leader of the program, but also to all those students. And what a great thing for high school students to develop and run a company. Yep. and then sell it eventually. And,
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of those companies you mentioned is going to compete internationally and this year. And tell us a little bit about the international competition then from the JA program.
Yeah, so we learned about this new competition last year, that the North American competition is now no longer the biggest competition, because Junior Achievement is actually a global organization. So there's 6 different competitions like the one here in North America that happen all over the globe. And they happen all throughout the year. So they have a new award. It's called the De La Vega Award. And he was an entrepreneur, and I believe he was from Latin America somewhere. And he sponsored this. And he has created an award that's going to name the Global JA Company of the Year. And it actually happens this June. It's a $15,000 prize that those students get to have, along with further entrepreneurship training for whatever they want to use that for. So an incredible opportunity. They actually will create a video. They're not going to a centralized location. They're going to create a video and submit it, and that award will be named at some point in June. So we've actually started to work with our Finlit group and start preparing for that, and that's been a lot of fun to reconnect with those students, because they're all in college now, but they're really excited about being a part of something that is global.
Right. That's awesome. Congratulations again. Yeah. So tell us about the process of starting a JA company and each year, and it's kind of a neat process for you. The kids do it in a short timeline, but
Yep.
Tell us how that happens and how do you organize the companies and how's that work?
Yeah, so we really treat it like a hiring process. And so step one is to organize the groups, because when the students walk in at the beginning of the year, none of this has been formed and they don't know what group they'll be on, let alone what product they'll end up selling. So we identify who wants to apply to become CEO. And so they know that's a big job. And so I ask for students to apply for that. And what they do is they submit a written application to me, and I accept that. And then they have to present in front of the class on why they would make a great CEO. And we actually let the students vote on that. So we have a voting process, and we talk through the teams on how we want that to work. And in recent years, we play the fantasy football draft music along with that. When
Sure.
that result comes in, that's a lot of fun. And so I don't even vote in that. I just let the process happen, and it's amazing to watch the kids take that process seriously and choose CEOs based on their merit. And it's a great process to watch unfold early in the year.
Yeah. So you've got CEO, but then you have all the other corporate seats, I guess.
Yep.
You got the CFO, and you've got your promotions or PR person,
Yep.
and production, and all the different seats that everybody's. How many kids are approximately on each team?
So this year we have 10, but sometimes there's 8 depending on how many teams we have that year. So you're right, every student has a position, and we try to fit them in the position that they want. But there is a whole process for that as well. And we really look at that and teach them about hiring. So that's when they create a resume. They will write a cover letter, and the cover letter will say what position they want. they create a LinkedIn profile. And then my favorite part about this is once all of this happens, we do some interest tests and help the students understand what position they might want to be in. And then the CEOs get to interview them. So we have a whole day where they do interviews. And so the CEOs have to write interview questions. And they learn so much from that on that side of the table. And they look through their resumes and their cover letters, and they really take that process seriously. So how the teams get chosen is actually through a draft. And so when they do the draft, they get to go back and forth, and it's kind of done, behind closed doors, so the students don't know what order they're picked in. But how we get up to that point is really very similar to how a company would hire people and
Sure.
how those decisions are made.
Sure. So they form their companies, they have their roles in each company, and then they brainstorm on their ideas and what the problem they want to solve, and then they've got to find some capital somehow, don't they?
Yes, they need money, and JA is great for helping with that. So there's a couple ways they can raise money. One, they each have to buy one share of stock, and so that can be, $20, something like that. So they get a couple $100 that way. And then JA will have a pitch day. So we'll have community members come in, and they will listen to their pitches, and they can get up to a $600 loan. So that's a great experience because they get to practice their presentations, and they get to write a business plan that the judges will get to see on that. So, through that, that usually provides enough capital. And sometimes they want me to be a shareholder, and I tell them, you really don't want me owning your company. That might not work out well for you. So I stay out of that, but we have a good joke about that. And once they think about that, they usually reconsider asking me to be a shareholder.
Yeah. So those investors and shareholders primarily, not only they're local business owners.
Yes.
And they form somewhat of a, if you will, kind of a Shark Tank type look. They're going to do their pitch and ask for funding from some support from those business owners.
And they get some of the best feedback. And one year, one of the investors found a couple mistakes in one of the group's business plan. And they were all in front, and I think we had everybody in the room that day. And he asked who was responsible for the mistakes. And the CEO at the time stood up and took responsibility for that, even though it wasn't the CEO who did that. And what a great lesson that was. And we had a great follow-up with that and how you handle a tough situation. Sure. And so some of the lessons kind of show through those situations, as far as what the kids learn and how their work should be turned in. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talked a little bit about how they choose the products or their service that they're going to provide. Anything else on that in the process of developing those?
They really spend a long time doing a lot of research. That's where, they look at a problem, and this is when we get into the product development side, and, the amount of research that they do and what they get to learn about whatever it's an environmental problem or a social problem. That's a neat process to watch them go through and just get a really clear view on whether this idea they have could move forward, because they also do research, they do surveys, and they bring in focus groups. And so, and the interesting thing about that process is it could take a long time, and sometimes it's pretty short, just depending on where they're at. So as a teacher, it can be challenging because you have groups in different spots. And so lesson planning can be hard when kids kind of drive what happens in the classroom that day, which is a little different from a regular classroom.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. So once they develop their business, their product or service, then they've got to go through and find a way they have it funded, obviously, but then they've got to build it. They've got to market it.
Absolutely.
They've got to sell it. How do they collect money for it? What do they do with it? So they're learning finance, production, sales.
They're opening a bank account. They're building a website. They're marketing on social media, they're doing email marketing, and all of this happens within a really short period of time. And so our goal is to kind of get everything going by Christmas time, so there's a lot of events they can work. And so this year they actually went down to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and worked a holiday event they were having down there in the clubhouse of the new stadium, which was a really neat experience for them.
Great place.
Yeah, so then they get to get out and sell it, and just teaching them an elevator pitch and how to, in 30 seconds, share with somebody what the solution to their problem is a great skill to learn.
That's awesome. Awesome. What great, incredible. Incredible. How do they prepare themselves for the competition that they face each year? And I assume everybody, whether it's at the class level or at the JA competition level, they're all participating in that.
Right. We practice a lot, and that's something that, all students, and I think we all can relate, is it's hard to develop a presentation. Just speaking in front of a group of people is hard. But this is different because this is what they created. So they're sharing something that they spent the last year of their life, school year, building. And so there's a lot on the line. So we practice a lot. And by the time we get to the end, I think they're a little bit tired of the practice. So they're ready to go and compete. But we really, along with the practice, they really have to learn how to work together too, because there's 5 of them that are giving this presentation. So it's not just one person. But for the most part, it's just a lot of repetition and a lot of having them understand how to work together as a team at that point.
Yeah, great. I've had the opportunity to go to some of the pitches here, but then also out in the community, and I know some other places where they've come together with other competitions to do that. So it's interesting how that happens and how they move along. And so those are selected, and it's kind of like not a tournament, but an elimination type piece. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that because you don't go forward in the competition that you're not able to produce or share or sell a viable product or service. It's just that in that particular competition.
Right. And I think what the students realize that when they compete together, they all had the same experience. So they really all can kind of share what they went through, and they realize like, hey, those students at Glen Oak, like they actually had the same problem we did, and they get to talk about that.
Right.
So yeah, it's a competition, but it's also a celebration of, hey, we did this. We right. got to be a part of this throughout the year, and it was a great experience.
Yeah. So then we have a kind of an internal and then like a smaller Stark County and then a regional. How do they get to the national competition?
So we have a local competition, which is back live this year. And so it's going to be at Kent State Stark at the Conference Center. And what's neat about that, too, is all of the students' family members are invited to come out and hear their pitches and be a part of that. And they do get judged, and there'll be a winner of our local competition there. And then really any group that participates can apply for nationals. So you don't have to finish first, second, third. And all they look at is their annual report and a commercial. And so those are the only 2 things that get submitted to the nationals. And other than that, they don't know anything about the groups. And so, always cross your fingers that they can pick the team that can represent us. And in the past, they're just really good at identifying those teams that deserve to go. And even one year we had 2 teams go a few years ago, right. But that was exciting as well.
Well, you've got the national competition thing down, and your batting average at the national levels is quite high. It's going to be hard to maintain that. But tell me a little bit about what they look for, and so when they get an application or a submittal from one of our teams, one of our businesses, what are they looking for at the national level?
Yeah, it's what's nice about it's not just about how much they sold. It's so much more than sales, although that's a part of it. But they're looking for what was the idea that they're solving, and how did they meet challenges, and what did they learn throughout the process as well. So they're really looking for a variety of things, and from that they pick their teams, those top 15 teams. But yeah, it's more than just sales, and they're kind of looking at the whole picture, which is nice.
Well, I can't imagine how rewarding this has been, and how much these kids have learned, but also how much they've taught you. And I think it's very, very cool. And I wish that all students had an opportunity to do this, but the business program is certainly thriving, and we appreciate your work and say congratulations. And, I'm sure it means a lot to you, but anything else you want to share personally or with the business program as far as,
Just the fact that you're right. It's a 2-way street, and the unique thing about it is I learn as much from the students as they teach me, and, entrepreneurship is a part of my life as well. So just to get to share it with the students, and the fact that we have a program here that they can experience entrepreneurship in a very real way is really unique, and it's really neat to go through that process with them.
Well, and it's incredible that we have a teacher that is in the middle of business entrepreneurship himself,
Yep.
and speaks from practice and experience, and helping our kids do that too. And we're very glad you're on the team, and wish you all the best. And thank you for what you do for our kids.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you came to talk to us, and thanks for your work on the Business Management and Junior Achievement Program. And folks should take a look at our Career Tech website and keep an eye out on social media or LinkedIn. You'll see some kids popped on LinkedIn once in a while, and I'm like, hey, who's that? And it's one of our students, and it's very, very cool to see that. So, well, we're glad you came to us today and shared a little bit about the JA program, and thank you for all you do for Hoover and for our kids. And thank you to our listeners for joining us as we learn more about our school district and community. And make sure to send us emails and for questions, ideas on programming to vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. And next week, we're going to have Michelle Hostetler with us. She's the Director of Instruction, and she's going to talk about a little bit about how to prepare kids for kindergarten. It's a changing world, and so we want to make sure our kids are well prepared and set to be able to get busy in kindergarten. And that's hard to believe, but there is a process for that. So we have an outstanding program, and Michelle Hostetler, our Director of Instruction, will share a little bit about that next week. So once again, if you have questions either for that topic or any other ideas or questions, make sure to email us at vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. Thank you, and signing off, and we appreciate you listening to Viking Spotlight. Have a great day, and go Vikings.